Hi, I'm Elise Naramore. The primary purpose of this video series has been to explain how the learning progression method is implemented, with a special focus on the logistics of grading. This is part 11, in which we will address some common misconceptions and frequently asked questions. How long will it take? Well, for good or bad, most students will need repeated and personalized explanations. This will most likely be utterly new to the student, and parents, and guidance counselors. So why not? The system that you have been steeped in all these years all focuses on percentages and grades. You add the numbers up and divide by the total, and there it is, clear as day. Why change it? If you are a student or a parent for that matter, I completely understand this point of view. And what you need to know is that I'm only making these changes because it's better for the student. That's it. It enables them to develop over time without fear of failure, with a supportive coach rooting you on. It better reflects the real world where the product is what matters, not how you got there. And in the job market, the ability to learn and grow is valued, and content knowledge is less important than skills like communication, problem solving, and collaboration. Please know that I am available to answer any questions you may have, whether you are a student, parents, guidance counselor, whatever. These videos are here for your convenience and reference, but if you would like to discuss your particular performance, we can do that at any time. Most students and parents are going to need these personalized explanations. This is equally true for parents, maybe even worse, because you don't have that day-to-day contact with them where you get to explain things in person. So you're going to need to call home whenever possible and answer their questions to head off confusion and upset. You want them to understand your point of view, and the only way to do this is to emphasize how much better it is for your child. Because of the stress on the development over time, without worrying about failure, where you don't drag past problems forward, it really opens up the conversation with the parents and enables you to be the coach and to be on their side. And then all of a sudden, you guys are collaborators. I've really shifted my relationship with parents since beginning this strategy. In these conversations where you explain the grading strategy, the emphasis is on what's best for the student and why. And sincerely, it's true. I have never had such close relationships with my students before, and it's so much easier to be authentic when I'm not the judge. I am the advocate. I get to see all the wonderful things the student brings to the table, and I can help him or her leverage them in the practices that my class seeks to develop. Parents can hear that and can be an additional resource and teammate of mine, not an adversary. Most students do much better in this situation. My class averages have increased by at least 5 points, and it's certainly no less rigorous. But of course, not all students do well, usually because they don't practice enough nor consistently. They rarely take responsibility, and then sometimes parents will lash out at the teacher or question the strategy as if that's the cause of the student's poor performance. Every year there seems to be at least one, but only one out of about 100. It always makes me sad and frustrated and stressed, but it's been that way forever. Usually it used to be worse. It always has been, it always will be. I used to spend hours grading and then more hours regrading if the whole class didn't do well, or if a student who I knew tried so hard happened to fail, stressing about a poorly designed assessment screwing up grades for the year. Now I don't stress about it. I can be honest because none of the scores are permanent until the end of the year. I have found that grading is much more manageable than it was. The first semester especially is very streamlined because you are just looking at student work up to a specific target level. It's usually very easy to identify whether students have met beginning, developing, or even some proficient levels. But honestly, grading 100 lab reports still sucks. Evenings and weekends are still part of my workday, although much less often than it used to be. The end of the semester is still crunch time, and I'm usually pulling my hair out, but it's still better. Because students have been trained to only do work when it's graded and counts, they have to learn that even when it's not graded, practice matters a lot. Some students have to learn this the hard way, and some never learn it. But at what point do you have those conversations about why you are assigning homework and what agency students have regarding it? When I see students are not completing homework, it's an opportunity to talk. We have a one-on-one conversation in which I first ask them why they're not doing it. Then I ask, do you just have 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 5? Set a timer and do as much as you can in that time and then stop. Or I invite them to come into my room if they need a quiet place to work, and I promise them that I won't talk to them unless they want to. These strategies help students to learn time management, develop executive function, understand the value of even less practice versus none, be a captain in their own learning, and strengthens your relationship with them as their coach. Early in the year, I noticed that a student seemed visibly upset, and it seemed directed at me. I took him aside and asked if he'd schedule a meeting with me so we could talk about it privately. At that meeting, he expressed frustration with the way the class was structured. Specifically, he felt like he was doing a lot of work and not getting any credit for it since I don't grade homework. He was also feeling stressed and anxious about the workload, the quantity. In addition, he was trying really hard to improve, yet found himself getting the same scores and was worried that he was failing. When a student or a parent is unhappy, I can't do anything about it unless I understand why. I really appreciated that he came to talk to me about this, and I was able to reiterate and better explain that the work he was doing was not wasted. Although there was no overt effect on his grade, the practice would enable him to ask good questions during class and perform well on end-of-unit assessments. Then I asked him what his hobbies were. He happened to be really into rebuilding motorcycles. So I asked him, how'd you learn how to do that? How much time did you spend? Was it gradual or immediate? And eventually I drew a parallel with something he loved to do with what I was trying to do with him. And I also explained that he had agency and he could make choices. If he had too much work to do, he should set a timer and just do as much as he could in the time that he had. For example, if he could tell me that he spent even 10 undistracted minutes on his homework, that would be sufficient, even if it was incomplete. A little done consistently is better than a lot done infrequently. After this conversation, we were allies. In this, the end of the last module, I want to let you know something you already know. There is no strategy that will enable the seamless transfer of knowledge and skills from your brain to a student's brain. I wish that wasn't true. For the teacher, it's hard work. For the student, it's hard work. Both teacher and students are humans with their own strengths and weaknesses, likes and dislikes. But together, we can maybe make it just a little bit better for all involved. This concludes the video series, Putting the Learning Progression Method into Action. I hope that you have found this information useful. You can find answers to these questions in other parts of the video series. If you are looking for instruction on how to create learning progressions for your own class, please go to www.reimagineschools.com for the video series, The Essentials of the Learning Progression Method.